Way back in 1976, a NASA spacecraft was orbiting Mars, and it snapped a picture that would kickstart a wild debate for decades. It was just this one grainy photo of a landform that looked, well, it looked a whole lot like a human face staring right back at us from the red planet. So this image comes from the Viking 1 orbiter, and when the scientists at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory first saw it, they actually thought it was pretty funny. They put out a press release noting, yeah, it kind of looks like a human head, but they wrote it off as just a trick of light and shadow. They even pointed out that a random glitch in the data, literally one single black pixel, created the illusion of a nostril.
But of course, the story did not end there, not by a long shot. This one picture ended up sparking two totally different explanations for what we were seeing on the Martian surface. It set up this fascinating showdown between archaeology and geology.
So on one side, you've got the Cydonian hypothesis. This theory claims we're looking at an artificial structure, the ruins of some ancient civilization. And on the other side, you have the geomorphology explanation, which argues it's nothing more than a natural hill that's been shaped by wind and maybe water over millions of years. So let's dive into both sides of this, starting with hypothesis number one.
Okay, so let's really get into this first theory, the absolutely mind-blowing idea that this thing is not a mountain at all. This is what's known as the Cydonian hypothesis, and it was formally put forward by a researcher named J.E. Brandenburg. He wasn't just saying it looked like a face, he was suggesting that we are looking at actual eroded archaeology. The theory goes that Mars was once home to a humanoid culture that built these massive monuments before some kind of planetary disaster just wiped them out.
And the people who support this idea, they point to a few key things. First off, they argue that the original image shows clear bilateral symmetry. Two eyes, a nose, a mouth, all framed by what kind of looks like a helmet. They also say, hey, this looks a lot like ancient monuments we have right here on Earth, like the Sphinx. Its location is a big deal too. It's sitting right near where scientists think the shoreline of an ancient Martian ocean used to be. I mean, a perfect spot for a civilization to pop up. And get this, it's not even alone. There's another structure nearby that's even been nicknamed the D&M Pyramid.
And all of this leads to the core prediction of their hypothesis, which is really the key to the whole argument. Proponents said, look, if this is a real man-made or, Martian-made structure, then getting better photos shouldn't make it look less like a face. It should actually reveal more artificial detail, even if it's been eroded over time.
All right, now let's flip over to the other side of the argument. This is the scientific consensus, the explanation that's rooted firmly in the geology of Mars.
So to really understand the geological take, there's one key term you gotta know: massive. Planetary geologist David Pieri explains this is basically just a term for a mountainous mass. It can be a whole group of connected mountains or just a single isolated one, which is exactly what geologists think they're seeing here.
And here's the most crucial point from their perspective. This face, this Massif, isn't special at all. It's just one of many, many similar-looking hills scattered all across this region of Mars. The fact that it's part of this big, consistent family of landforms, well, that strongly suggests they were all formed by the same natural processes, not that one was singled out to be built into a monument.
Geologists see all the classic signs of natural formation. It's located at a major geological boundary on Mars. It's got clear signs of erosion, landslides, and these layers of sediment just draped right over it. It's possible these things even formed underwater in that ancient ocean we talked about. And really, it looks a whole lot like landforms we know really well here on Earth, like the famous buttes you see in Monument Valley.
In fact, this quote from NASA scientist David Morrison pretty much sums up the whole skeptical viewpoint. From a scientific perspective, any resemblance to a face is just a coincidence, a kind of geological Rorschach test on a planetary scale. We see a face because we're programmed to see faces.
So for more than 20 years, this whole debate just raged on. But both sides actually agreed on one thing. A better picture, a higher resolution photo would settle this thing once and for all. And in the late 90s, we were finally about to get one.
The Mars Global Surveyor arrived at the Red Planet, and its camera was a huge leap forward in technology. We're talking about the ability to capture images with 10 times the detail of those original Viking photos. This was it. This was the moment of truth. And here's what we got. The mysterious, spooky face from 1976 basically dissolved into what looked like a totally natural, eroded hill in the new high-resolution image. The face was gone. For most scientists, that was it.
Case closed. It was just a hill. But it wasn't quite that simple.
Because, and this is the most incredible part of the whole story, instead of settling the debate, the new evidence just poured gasoline on the fire. Proponents of the Cydonian hypothesis looked at it and saw a confirmation of anatomical details and helmet ornaments. Meanwhile, the scientists looked at the exact same photo and saw a low mesa, where the resemblance to a face disappears. Both sides looked at the same new data and saw total vindication for their own beliefs.
So what is going on here? If the data was so much clearer, why didn't the argument just end? Well, because this was never really about a rock.
You have to understand what was at stake. For supporters of the Cydonian hypothesis, this was huge. This was about finding the first real proof of intelligent alien life, a potential answer to Fermi's paradox, and the world-changing realization that we are not alone in the universe. But for mainstream science, the stakes were just as high. It was about upholding the scientific method, guarding against pseudoscience, and explaining the cosmos through processes we can actually test and verify.
The face on Mars became this perfect, almost textbook case study in what we call confirmation bias. You see the pattern, right? Step 1, an anomaly pops up in fuzzy, low-res data. Step 2, two competing theories form to explain it. One is extraordinary, the other is ordinary. Step 3, clearer, better data finally arrives. And step 4, instead of solving the mystery, both sides just filter that new data through their existing beliefs, and they only see the evidence that proves they were right all along.
And so, the story of the face on Mars teaches us just as much about ourselves as it does about the geology of another planet. It shows our amazing ability to find patterns, and it shines a light on our deepest hopes and maybe our biggest fears. And it leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to chew on. When we look out into the stars, are we really seeing the cosmos as it is? Or are we just seeing a reflection of ourselves?